The sleek silver ships of the Marone fleet glided silently above Earth's atmosphere, their heat-dispersing technology rendering them invisible to human detection systems. Captain Day stood on the bridge of the command vessel, his tall, slender form casting a long shadow across the holographic display of the blue planet below. "Fascinating," he murmured, six-fingered hands adjusting the controls to zoom in on a human settlement. "Such primitive dwellings, yet they've managed to harness nuclear energy." Science Officer Bay approached with a data tablet. "Our initial scans are complete, Captain. The dominant species shows all physiological markers of an herbivore species that evolved intelligence." "Explain," Day commanded, eyes never leaving the rotating image of Earth. "Flat teeth primarily designed for grinding plant matter. No natural weapons, no claws, no venom, minimal muscle density compared to predator species. They require cooked food due to weak digestive systems." They swiped through anatomical diagrams. "They're essentially defenseless without their tools." Captain Day nodded thoughtfully. This matched the pattern they'd seen across the galaxy. Herbivore species that developed intelligence typically did so as a defense mechanism, using brainpower to compensate for physical weakness. "Their technological progress is impressive for their development stage," added Bay. "But their social structure suggests they'll be receptive to guidance." The Marone had encountered this scenario dozens of times before. Peaceful herbivore species welcomed the protection and knowledge the Marone offered. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement. The Marone gained resources and labor, while the lesser species received protection from the truly dangerous predator races that lurked in the darker corners of the galaxy. "Establish the observation post," Day ordered. "Northern polar region, minimal human presence. We'll study them properly before initiating first contact protocols." Within 3 Earth days, the Marone had constructed their primary research facility beneath the Arctic ice. Thermal shielding kept it hidden from orbital detection, while advanced camouflage systems protected it from accidental discovery by the occasional human explorers. Research Director Me oversaw the deployment of observation drones to population centers around the globe. The tiny machines, disguised as local insects, transmitted real-time data about human behavior and capabilities. "Their social hierarchies are complex," Ni reported during the first briefing. "They organize into competitive nation-states rather than a unified government." "Typical of pre-contact species," Day replied dismissively. "They'll unify once they understand the galactic community." Me wasn't so certain. "There's something unusual about their conflict patterns. They wage war against themselves with surprising creativity. All species have territorial disputes before reaching maturity," Day said. "Continue monitoring. I want comprehensive data before we plan the contact event." The Marone expanded their observation, sending research teams to study human military installations from a safe distance. Team 6, led by junior researcher June, deployed to observe a remote facility in what humans called Nevada. "Their weapons are primitive but diverse," June reported via secure channel. "Primarily kinetic projectiles, though we've detected energy-based systems in development." "Nothing that threatens our technology level," Director Me replied. "Maintain distance and continue observation." That was the last transmission from Team 6. 24 hours later, when they failed to report in, Director Me sent a recovery team. They found no trace of June or his 3 assistants. Only the abandoned stealth vehicle remained, its systems intact but powered down. "Perhaps they were captured," suggested Security Chief 1, reviewing the scene through the recovery team's visual feed. "Impossible," Director Me insisted. "Our camouflage technology is undetectable to their scanning capabilities." Yet the evidence was undeniable. For Marone researchers had vanished without a trace. Captain Day was not concerned when informed. Researcher error. They likely violated protocols and exposed themselves. Recall all field teams until we establish what went wrong. As the Marone field teams retreated to the Arctic base, they remained unaware that their missing colleagues were already in a secure human facility 2 kilometers below the Nevada desert. There, human scientists were learning more about alien biology than the Marone had ever intended to share. In the Arctic base, Captain Day calmly updated his mission log, day 27 of observation. The humans continue to exhibit expected behaviors for their development stage. They will make excellent additions to the Galactic Protectorate once proper contact is established. He had no idea how catastrophically wrong he was. The Arctic winds howled outside the hidden Marone base as communications officer Sue stared at her monitoring screen with growing concern. The energy patterns she detected from the human military installation in Nevada had changed. They were now pulsing in a way that matched Marone communication frequencies too closely to be coincidence. "Director Me," she called, her voice tight. "I believe the humans are attempting to use our own technology." Me dismissed her concerns with a wave of his slender hand. "Impossible. They cannot have deciphered anything meaningful in such a short time. Their brains lack the processing capacity." But Sue wasn't convinced. The patterns continued, becoming more refined each hour. Something was very wrong. 3 days after the disappearance of Research Team 6, Security Chief 1 detected unusual movement patterns on the ice 2 kilometers from the base. Thermal signatures approaching. Too small for polar bears. Moving with purpose. Humans? Me asked, finally showing concern. "Impossible," 1 replied. "Our location is undetectable to their technology." Yet the signatures continued their steady approach toward the base. Captain Day ordered a small security team to investigate but maintain distance. 4 guards led by Officer Han departed through the base's secondary entrance, their adaptive camouflage making them nearly invisible against the snow. Han's team never returned. "We've lost contact," 1 reported, his usual calm demeanor cracking. No distress signal. Complete communication failure. Captain Day finally began to worry. "Deploy defensive protocols. No one enters or leaves until we understand what's happening." The base went into lockdown. External sensors showed more thermal signatures gathering outside, now clearly forming a perimeter around the Marone facility. The humans had somehow found them. "This is impossible," Me insisted again, reviewing the sensor data. "Our technology is centuries beyond theirs. They shouldn't even know we exist." The first breach came 6 hours later. Something cut through the outer hull, a crude but effective plasma torch reverse-engineered from salvaged Marone technology. The base's automated defense systems activated, deploying stun fields designed to safely immobilize what the Marone still believed were herbivorous beings who would surrender when cornered. The humans didn't react as expected. The first team that entered wore modified insulation suits that partially protected them from the stun fields. They moved slowly but deliberately, testing the effects, learning the patterns of the Marone technology in real time. "They're adapting," Sue whispered in horror as she watched the security feeds. "They're learning how our systems work just by experiencing them." 3 humans fell to the stun fields, but 5 more pushed through, now carrying primitive projectile weapons. When they encountered the first Marone guards, they showed no fear of the alien beings. Instead, they opened fire. The Marone, never expecting physical violence from what they had classified as a peaceful herbivore species, had no personal shields deployed. 2 guards collapsed, their pale blue blood spreading across the floor. They attacked without provocation. Me shouted, watching the security feeds in disbelief. "These creatures are supposed to be non-aggressive plant eaters." Captain Day stared at the screen, his worldview shattering. "We've misunderstood something fundamental about them." The human intrusion team was eventually repelled when Captain Day activated the high-intensity stun fields that affected the entire sector. But the damage was done. The Marone had suffered casualties, and the humans had retreated with samples of their technology. In the command center, the Marone leadership gathered for an emergency meeting. "They hunt in coordinated groups," Security Chief 1 observed. "They use tools instead of natural weapons. They adapt quickly to new threats." Researcher Ben, who had been analyzing human biology, spoke up hesitantly. "Captain, I believe our initial classification was flawed. These humans show signs of omnivore dentition, not strict herbivore patterns. Their eyes are forward-facing, like predators." "That's impossible," Me snapped. "They lack all the primary characteristics of predator species. perhaps they evolved differently, been suggested. A predator species that lost its physical advantages but kept its hunting instincts. Captain Day remains silent, processing this disturbing possibility. Outside the base, the human forces regrouped. Major Park reviewed the data collected from their first incursion. The alien technology was like nothing they'd seen before, but the principles were understandable. Their captive aliens from Nevada had provided crucial insights. They underestimated us, he told his team. They thought we were harmless plant eaters. Their mistake. Inside the base, Captain Day made a decision. Send a signal to the fleet. We need reinforcements. And prepare a more thorough analysis of human biology and behavior. We've clearly misunderstood what these creatures are. The first battle between species was over. The war was just beginning. The Marone Council responded to Captain Day's urgent request within days. 3 additional warships entered Earth orbit, bringing advanced troops and equipment. The new arrivals included Commander Q, a veteran of 17 first contact missions who was renowned for his decisiveness. Your reports are disturbing, Q told Captain Day as they walked through the reinforced Arctic base. No species at this technology level has ever detected our observation posts before. These humans are different, Day replied. They think differently than we anticipated. Commander Q wasn't impressed. They're still primitive. Our mistake was using standard containment protocols. We should have deployed 4th-generation weapons from the start. The Marone quickly fortified their Arctic base with energy shields and deployed scout ships to monitor human military movements. What they discovered alarmed them. All major nations were quietly mobilizing forces, yet no public announcements had been made about alien contact. They're keeping our existence secret from their general population, Science Officer Bay reported. This suggests strategic thinking at a governmental level. Meanwhile, in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Park and her team worked frantically to understand the alien technology recovered from the Arctic raid. The captured Marone prisoners from Nevada had provided valuable insights, though communication remained difficult. Their molecular manipulation is centuries beyond us, Dr. Park told General Lee during a briefing. But the underlying principles are comprehensible. We're making progress on their energy weapons. How soon until we can defend against them, the general asked. Weeks, not months, Dr. Park replied. Their technology is advanced but not incomprehensible. And they've made a critical error. What's that? They think we're stupid, she said simply. They classified us as non-predators, which means they expect predictable, non-aggressive behavior. They don't understand what humans are capable of when threatened. Back at the Marone base, scientist June made a troubling discovery while reviewing historical human data. Captain, look at this, he said, displaying images of ancient human hunting techniques. They used to chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. They're persistence hunters. Explain, Commander Q demanded. Most predators rely on speed or strength for short bursts. These humans evolved to track prey for days, outlasting them through superior endurance and problem-solving. June displayed more images. They lacked natural weapons, so they created artificial ones. They lack speed, so they developed pursuit strategies. Captain Day felt a chill. You're saying they're predators who use intelligence rather than physical attributes? Precisely, June nodded. And they've been using these same tactics against each other for millennia. Their wars have forced constant innovation. Commander Q dismissed these concerns. Irrelevant. We'll deploy combat teams with full tactical equipment. No more observation, we'll capture key humans for proper study. The first direct confrontation occurred 3 days later when a Marone scout ship was detected approaching a military installation in what humans called Siberia. The humans were ready. They launched modified surface-to-air missiles that, while primitive, had been adjusted based on data from the Arctic raid. 2 missiles struck the scout ship. It didn't destroy the advanced vessel but damaged its propulsion system, forcing an emergency landing. The Marone crew expected to be rescued quickly. Instead, they watched in horror as human forces surrounded their position and systematically tested the ship's defensive fields, probing for weaknesses. When Marone rescue ships arrived, they found the scout ship empty and partially disassembled. The crew was gone. "They took our people alive," Commander Q raged when he received the report. "And they're harvesting our technology piece by piece." Captain Day reviewed the sensor logs with growing unease. "Look at how they approached the ship. They sacrificed several of their vehicles to test the defense perimeter. They used the knowledge gained from each loss to adjust their approach." "Tactical adaptation," Commander Q acknowledged grudgingly. "Perhaps they deserve more respect as opponents." The situation deteriorated rapidly. 3 more Marone teams disappeared while attempting to gather human specimens. Human military forces began deploying weapons with disturbing similarities to Marone technology. Global defense systems started emitting energy signatures that interfered with Marone sensors. Scientist June submitted a formal report to the Marone Council. "The humans are demonstrating unprecedented adaptive capabilities. They are reverse engineering our technology at an alarming rate. Most concerning, they appear to be cooperating globally despite their fractured governance systems." Commander Q remained confident. "We've handled aggressive species before. We'll deploy our main battle group and end this quickly." Captain Day wasn't so sure. As he watched humans systematically dismantle Marone advantages one by one, he remembered June's description of persistence hunters. The humans weren't fighting like cornered herbivores. They were hunting the Marone, methodically and relentlessly. And they were just getting started. The skirmish at Outpost Delta changed everything. The Marone had established this forward base in an isolated mountain region to launch their newly arrived combat units. Commander Q personally oversaw the operation, confident that the 4th-generation battle drones would quickly subdue any human resistance. "These units can neutralize targets from 2 kilometers away," he explained to Captain Day. "They're equipped with adaptive shields and learning algorithms. No primitive species has ever withstood them." The attack began at dawn. 50 battle drones swept down from the mountains toward a human military installation that had been detected nearby. The Marone watched through the drones' visual feeds, expecting quick submission. What happened instead shocked them to their core. The humans had prepared the battlefield. As the drones approached, hidden charges detonated along predetermined paths, not to destroy the drones but to force them into narrow channels. The humans had studied Marone movement patterns and predicted exactly how their units would respond. "Impossible," Commander Q whispered as the feed showed human soldiers emerging from camouflaged positions. The humans didn't attempt to match Marone technology directly. Instead, they used the environment itself as a weapon. They created zones where visibility was reduced by smoke that confused Marone sensors. They deployed crude but effective jammers that disrupted drone coordination. Most disturbing to the watching Marone was the humans' willingness to sacrifice. Several soldiers deliberately exposed themselves to draw drone fire, revealing the drones' positions to hidden snipers. Others charged directly at drones in what seemed like suicide runs, only to deploy close-range disruptors that had been reverse-engineered from captured Marone technology. "They're using themselves as bait," Scientist June said, voice hushed. "They're sacrificing individuals to learn our weapons' capabilities." The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, 37 Marone drones had been destroyed or captured. The humans had suffered casualties too, but they had achieved their objective. The Marone combat units had been defeated. Back at the main base, Commander Q was furious. "This is unprecedented. Their tactics show knowledge of our systems that they shouldn't possess." Captain Day studied the battle recordings with growing unease. "They're not fighting like any species we've encountered before. They're fighting like predators," Scientist June finished quietly. June had been conducting deeper research into human biology and history. He called an emergency meeting to present his findings, displaying images on the main screen. "We misunderstood their evolutionary path," he explained. "Humans didn't evolve from pure herbivores. They evolved from omnivorous apes who became specialized persistence hunters." The display showed ancient humans tracking animals across plains. "They lack speed," so they developed endurance. They lacked natural weapons, so they created artificial ones. Their forward-facing eyes give them excellent depth perception for tracking and targeting. June displayed more images, humans hunting in groups, developing increasingly sophisticated weapons. Most critically, they've been waging war against themselves for their entire history. They've had thousands of years to perfect the art of killing. Their bodies may appear weak, but their minds evolved specifically to outthink prey and competitors. Commander Q struggled to process this information. But our initial scans were flawed, June admitted. We focused on their physical attributes and missed the predatory nature of their cognition. They think like hunters because they are hunters. Captain Day remembered something from his xenobiology training. There's a term for this apex predator. A species at the top of its food chain. Precisely, June nodded. But humans are something even more dangerous, they're apex predators who developed technology. They didn't need to evolve stronger bodies because they created tools that made them lethal without physical adaptations. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent alert. Human forces had surrounded another Marone outpost and were broadcasting a message on Marone frequencies. The message was simple: we know what you are. We know where you are. This is our planet. Leave or be hunted. Commander Q was stunned. They're threatening us? A level 2 civilization threatening a level 5? This is unprecedented arrogance. Captain Day wasn't so sure. He reviewed the battle footage again, watching the cold precision with which human soldiers had dismantled their advanced drones. He saw the teamwork, the sacrifice, the adaptability. These weren't the actions of prey animals lashing out in fear. These were the calculated moves of predators who had identified a threat and were systematically eliminating it. I believe, Captain Day said slowly, that we have made a grave error in our assessment of this species. As if confirming his words, alarms began blaring throughout the base. The main sensors showed hundreds of human force signatures converging on their position from all directions. The hunters had become the hunted. The Marone command center erupted into chaos as the proximity alarms blared. Tactical displays showed human forces approaching from all directions, not just ground troops but aircraft and watercraft too. How did they find our main base? Commander Q demanded, his composure finally cracking. This facility is shielded by our best technology. Captain Day studied the incoming data with growing realization. They followed our own supply ships. They've been tracking our movements for days. The humans had indeed been watching patiently, studying Marone patterns, learning their weaknesses. Now they struck with coordinated precision that shocked the alien observers. The first wave of attack targeted the base's external sensors. Small drones, clearly built with salvaged Marone technology, deployed jamming fields that created blind spots in the defensive perimeter. Then came specialized units carrying equipment that interfered with the base's energy shields. They've adapted our own technology against us, scientist June observed, a note of reluctant admiration in his voice. In weeks, not the decades it should have taken. Commander Q ordered the activation of all defensive systems. Energy weapons emerged from hidden compartments around the base, targeting the approaching human forces. Several human vehicles were destroyed, but the attack barely slowed. They're absorbing losses without hesitation, Security Chief 1 reported. They sacrificed the few to gain advantage for the many. The base shuddered as the first explosions breached the outer hull. Human soldiers poured in through multiple entry points, wearing armor that partially protected them from Marone stun fields. They moved in tight formations, covering each other with practiced efficiency. Captain Day made a decision. We need to contact their leaders. This misunderstanding has gone too far. Misunderstanding? Commander Q spat the word. They're attacking us. There's no misunderstanding, they're proving themselves to be the savages we suspected. No, Day replied firmly. We invaded their world. We took their people for study. We attacked their military installations. They're defending their territory, just as we would. Before Q could respond, an alert sounded from the orbital monitoring system. The three Marone warships in Earth orbit reported human spacecraft approaching crude vessels by Marone standards, but armed with weapons that showed clear signs of reverse-engineered alien technology. Impossible, Q whispered. They can't have space combat capabilities. They didn't, June said quietly. Until they studied our ships. Another explosion rocked the base. The humans were getting closer to the command center. Captain Day opened a communication channel using the frequencies they had detected humans using. This is Captain Day of the Marone Exploration Fleet. I wish to speak with your leaders. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then a human voice replied, "This is General Min of the United Earth Defense Force. We are listening." Day took a deep breath. "We came to your world to study your species. We believed you were herbivores who would welcome our protection in the galactic community. We now recognize our error." There was a pause before General Min responded. "You kidnapped our people. You established hidden bases on our planet. You attacked when discovered. These are not the actions of peaceful visitors." "A misunderstanding born of ignorance," Day admitted. "We failed to recognize that humans evolved as predators who use intelligence rather than physical strength. This has never happened before in our explorations." Another explosion, closer now. The base's integrity was failing. "We request a cessation of hostilities," Day continued. "We will withdraw from your planet and return all human subjects unharmed." The human response was cold. "You will withdraw immediately. You will provide all data collected on humans in Earth. You will release all captives. Your ships will remain at the edge of our solar system as hostages until these conditions are met." Commander Q was furious. "This is outrageous. They can't dictate terms to us." But Captain Day understood the reality of their situation. The humans had proven themselves far more dangerous than any species they had encountered at this technology level. They learned too quickly, adapted too efficiently, and fought with a ruthlessness that even the Marone found disturbing. "We accept your terms," Day transmitted. Within hours, the Marone began their evacuation. Their ships retreated to the edge of the solar system as demanded. The captured humans were returned, along with all research data. In his final report to the Marone Council, Captain Day wrote, "Humanity represents a new classification of intelligent species, predators who evolved intelligence not as a defensive adaptation but as a hunting strategy. Their ability to rapidly understand and adapt to new technologies makes them the most dangerous Level 2 civilization ever encountered." The Council's response was immediate. Earth was classified as a restricted zone. No Marone ship was to approach the solar system without explicit authorization. As their fleet departed, Captain Day took one last look at the blue planet. He couldn't help wondering what would happen when these clever predators eventually developed their own interstellar travel. The galaxy would never be the same.